Michele. I am an author of strange and unusual books for children. I also do some YA books. I've always really been interested in storytelling. I've always been an artist. I've always been that kid in the class, like, oh, Holly, draw me this, you know? So I started off as drawing like Disney princesses and everything, because that's what people wanted, like Disney characters. And I just started doing my own characters. During COVID, gave me the opportunity to start publishing some of the stuff I had written and a chance to do my, again, like create my own characters and put them out there. And I live here in South Jersey with my husband and my 4 fur babies. I'm a crazy cat lady, which gives me great inspiration in my books. So I've always been a big Edgar Allan Poe fan since I was a child. So in grammar school, for our English class, to try to get us to do public speaking, like you got to pick like a poem or short story, pick an excerpt from it and recite it in front of the class. So I picked The Bells by Edgar Allan Poe. So now I'm like a kid, so I am maybe like 10, 12. I'm horrible at that, but I was like a little kid. So when I had first read The Bells, I had assumed it was about Christmas time, which of course is not what it's about, stages of life, but it kind of always stuck with me. So even now as an adult and I'm reading it, I always get this vision of Christmas. You know, maybe it's Holly, maybe I'm a little bit more narcissistic than I like to admit. So there's always been that in the back of my head. And I'm familiar with the story of the Krampus, which is essentially like this Christmas devil that travels around with Santa or Saint Nick. And he comes down the chimney and, you know, he whips kids with a stick and gives them coal, and then, you know, Saint Nick gives them Christmas candy or treats. But the interesting thing is that the Krampus, you know, he would wear chains covered in bells. So it's just the story of the bells, Christmas in my head, and then that married together with that creepy Edgar Allan Poe kind of vibe to it. I just thought it was like perfect. So Edgar Allan Poe, he's a young Edgar Allan Poe is the main character of my story. He's looking out the window, he hears bells, he thinks they're Santa's bells, but they're not. So that's the premise of the book. And I think Edgar Allan Poe would like the fact that it has like a darker twist to it. But it is done in a kid-friendly way, which is really cool. Because even though kids do read Edgar Allan Poe, you know, in grammar school, this is really geared towards younger, and it's, you know, done in a fun way so the whole family can enjoy it. I am crazy. So I've actually recently released several others in the series, which I'm calling Edgar Allan Poe Reimagined. I recently released The Raven, which is an Edgar Allan Poe Christmas Carol, which is tons of fun. because, it's about his lost love, Lenore. But in this children's book, Lenore was his first pen, his quill pen. So basically the Raven shows him the past, present, and the future. And of course, the ghost of yet to come is the Red Death. So we get to travel and explore some different Edgar Allan Poe works within the Raven and do it again in a fun Christmas manner. I did recently a Telltale Heart, which is an Edgar Allan Poe lesson in emotional awareness, which is really fun. It was my first book. I got to put a warning on there. But that's really fun. Instead of fixating on, the old man with the vulture eye, his sister's doll has mismatched eyes, and he kind of fixates on it, which I grew up in a big family. Anybody who came from a big family can understand some of that strife between the different children. So that's in there, and it's done in a way where it's a learning, it gives you the chance to do a learning experience to talk to your children, like, hey, what did he do wrong, and how was he able to fix this in the end? And hopefully before Halloween, The Fall of the House of Usher, which is a Halloween story, Edgar Allan Poe Halloween story, will be out. I do have a website, hollymicheleauthor.com. Michele is spelled with one L. My mom was getting cute. I do have a Facebook page under Holly Michele Author, and that's probably the best way to see what's coming up. I do try to put pictures on there of upcoming projects. That's probably the best way to follow me.
My name is Stephen Smith, and the show is called The Black Cat by Edgar Allan Poe. So we're here in The Space in Canary Wharf, and it was once a Presbyterian church, but it was converted into a fringe theatre. We've gone a bit ambitious with this one. We've gone around the outside of the venue, and we kind of go up into the pub area at one point. So it's a promenade theatre site-specific event. It's filmed on a mobile phone. It's a proper in-your-face tracking camera one-shot, basically, so no edits. Unlike a live stream show filmed from the back of an auditorium where you get a very far away feel from the actors, this one is right up close and personal, so even though it's a live stream show that you're watching from home, it's quite intimate and immersive. I think the key word with these kind of shows is variety. Variety of shot sizes, variety of lighting, sound cues, music. We've got two performers, myself and Michele, playing husband and wife. There's Javi and Josh, who are kind of production assistants doing everything behind the camera, and David, who films the whole thing. And we've also got Eddie, who is our technician, who's doing all the lighting.
My name is Michele Benison, and I'm playing the wife in The Black Cat. One of my favourite bits in the show is the use of cameras. So there's points where the camera takes the point of view of the cat or takes the point of view from other places. So that's been really, really fun to interact with playing with the camera, and I might get to do some cheeky bit of filming myself in the show. And we're not just using the stage area, we're using the whole of it. We're using the piano, we're using all of the different entrances and exits that you can use, so that's really exciting. Since we've been in lockdown for a year now, kind of seeing how people are evolving the medium of online theatre is actually really exciting, and yeah, it's great to be a part of that.
My name's Stephen Smith. I'm an actor and theatre producer from the UK. I first got introduced to Poe when I was maybe, about five or 6 years old, when I started watching all these classic Universal horror movies. And then a little later, the Roger Corman, Vincent Price kind of Poe adaptations. And to be quite honest, I kind of put Poe to bed for many years, because that was a very childhood fascination with horror and Gothic literature and everything. And then I went through a teenage years of trying to fit in with everyone else. And Poe seemed to go over so many people's heads in the schools in the UK, because we didn't study him or anything over in England. And then during the pandemic, I started doing digital theatre adaptations of his original stories, starting with The Telltale Heart, and then The Black Cat, which is the piece that's been nominated for the Saturday Visitor Award. And I've not looked back, and I've since done some theatre adaptations, like live theatre adaptations of his work. And it's been a joy getting back into his original stories, which deviate quite drastically from the film adaptations that I've come to realize, or rather, the film adaptations deviate from the original stories. So the Black Cat adaptation that we did during the pandemic is essentially it's an adaptation in the sense of the medium, because what we have done is use his original script or story as it was written in the 1840s. But what we did was essentially a live one-shot film that we not only filmed in one take inside and outside and around this Gothic church in London, which is now a theatre called The Space. But not only did we film it in one take, but we live streamed it at the same time. So it's this live one-shot film, tracking, camera, choreography, bit of madness, basically, using his original text. And the character, I suppose, well, I mean, I definitely based the look on Edgar Allan Poe, with the kind of the tash and the longish hair and the Victorian attire. But I suppose the character was very much inspired by, well, I suppose the writing itself kind of lent a lot to how I saw the character. But since doing that particular version of the Black Cat, I've done it again, but more as a kind of Cockney chancer kind of character. So the character has developed over the months, actually. But the medium of this live, intense, one shot and getting it right retelling of his story, I feel like we're very proud of what we did with the Black Cat, and it's dare I say it, quite a unique way of telling the story. What I try and do with Poe's pieces is memorize them literally word for word as they were written, and deliver them as dramatic monologues. So I would love to give other works like maybe Murders in the Rue Morgue a go, but of course that is less of a monologue than a story with multiple characters. And so I try and find his stories that are written in the first person. I mean, the four that I do totals 2.5 hours as it is, so I wonder if I can fit in any more anyway. So I don't know. So my theatre company that I set up at drama school is called Threedumb Theatre, and that's THREEDUMB Theatre. So you can find us at threedumbtheatre.com, or we've got a Twitter, Instagram, and a YouTube channel where you can find promo bits and bobs of the Black Cat and the Telltale Heart digital theatre show that we did in lockdown. I'm on Twitter at @smithactor and Instagram as Steve Your Life Up. And I think that's all for now. I mean, the One Man Poe show that I do, if you follow the hashtag One Man Poe, you'll see everything we've done so far with that.
Edgar retired for the night, nodding off to sleep in the middle of his scribblings, a pen still clutched in his hand. Hamlin searched through the collection of writings. With a little effort, he found what he had been hoping for, the manuscript Poe had been working on when Hamlin first came to escort him to heaven, and the very reason Hamlin had given him more time on earth. When Hamlin read its opening paragraphs that night so long ago, he recognized its brilliance and its potential as one of the greatest horror stories of the 19th century. And now he had it before him again. Hamlin stoked the fire and, leafing carefully through the fragile, foxed pages, began to devour the words. The beginning pages were just as he remembered, dark, foreboding, and riveting.
My name is Louise Gorday. I'm a Maryland author. I've been writing professionally for about the last 12 years. I've written, 8 novels based on a fictional Maryland town that reflects some of the history of Chesapeake Beach, Maryland, which is on the western shore of Maryland. I write basically in 2 genres, the fantasy genre and also historical fiction. And it's the fantasy side that my novel, Edgar and the Flyboys, that I submitted to the competition, falls under fantasy. From the time that I could paste or staple pieces of paper together, I've written little stories. I started my first novel when I was 14. It was awful, and I hope I never find it again. It's just a burning desire to do it, I guess. And I write every day. Not a lot. Don't write prolifically every day, but every day, pretty much for the last 12 years I've written. And after a while, it just kind of piles up. As I said earlier, Edgar and the Flyboys is a fantasy novel, and the main character is an immortal named Hamlin Russell. And when he died, he didn't go to heaven or hell. He went to a purgatory-like place called the Way Station. It's run like a business, and his job as a soul runner is to ferry souls at the moment of death to either heaven or hell. He doesn't like the job. He doesn't do it well. Sometimes he doesn't do it at all. In 1849, his supervisor sent him to Baltimore to pick up the soul of Edgar Allan Poe. And when he got there, he realized that Edgar was on the verge of a masterpiece. So he said, "Finish. I'll come back for you." The very first rule of his soul running manual, I'll come back for you. And he was good to his promise. He came back to pick up the soul 170 years later because he didn't care. He just doesn't care. The weirder thing is, Edgar hadn't written another word in 170 years. And that's the story. Why hasn't Edgar written? It's up to the immortal to get him to finish and get him into the afterlife before his supervisor realizes that he screwed up one more time and he gets final judgment and he's sent to hell. Poe is a main character. I touch upon his death through one of the theories of illegal voting and cooping in Baltimore at the time. I also worked the mysterious stranger, his cognac and his rose every birthday into the story. And I quote in one particular section some of Poe's works about death and hell. So I kind of follow him the whole way through the book. Well, I'd still have to go back to his to his life, but I would fill in what happened in that 170-year gap between when he was supposed to have died and when he actually Hamlin came to pick him up. I mean, he wasn't writing, and I'm sure that would have driven him crazy, but was he sitting on a dock somewhere thinking about Annabelle Lee, or was he headed to the pub to wall up the pub owner in his basement? I think that would be fascinating. I have a Facebook page on under my writing name, Louise Gorday. You can find me on Twitter, and I also have a website that's under louisegorday.com.